You nervous? You excited?
I'm excited.
Sick. Okay.
Take it away, Fabs.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Pitstop podcast. It's your two favourite podcasting lads. And today, today is a very special episode once again, isn't it?
We have got a very special guest with us on our sofa. Our first ever Formula One driver to join us here in our flat.
Mate, we've done it. We said at the start of this year we wanted to get an F1 driver in our living room. We've done a few drivers, but we've always been elsewhere. But now this guy's sat right in front of us. I can't believe it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Oscar Piastri.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Whoa!
Round of applause. Thank you.
Oh man!
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
How's things, mate? How was the journey here? Was it okay?
Yeah, it was okay. Bit of a drive, but no, it was pretty good. Not too much traffic. I was expecting there to be much more traffic being in London, but
yeah,
it was a smooth journey.
We're a little bit further out here, so it's not so bad. It's good to see you again, mate, because we've bumped into you before.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say you have bumped into me.
I was going to say, do you remember that?
I don't near my place, and
it'd be so funny to hear that story from your point of view, because I'd love to tell you it from ours.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, it was. I think one of you got. I think it was you, Jake, that got in touch. And I can't remember when it was. It was like April or May or something.
I think it might have been it was just as we started.
It was slightly earlier.
Basically, when we launched the pod, I'd said from the beginning you were someone I wanted to get on.
Yeah.
So we'd reached out to you straight away.
Yeah.
Even though the pod was like brand new, and you'd come back fair enough and been like, yeah, all right, I'm up for it. And then we'd bumped into you like literally a couple of days later.
Yeah.
And
we were at Ollie's house.
Yeah.
Just did a podcast with Ollie Caldwell at his flat. Great guy. Coming out, we were actually talking about you. We were stood in his hallway talking about. He was like, "Oh yeah, Oscar lives down the hallway." We're like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
As you come out the front door, you're literally walking down the hallway, and so there's this awkward moment where we're about to get in the lift, and I say to Jake, "Like, do we wait for him, or like, we're like, no, that's not. That's fucking weird." And then we waited downstairs for you, and then
in all fairness, I was saying no, let's go to the car. Like it'll be weird if we wait. And
I was like,
no, we have to say hello.
Yeah.
So we're stood at the bottom of the lift. You come out, we're like, Oscar, hello.
Yeah. Well, because for me, it took me a couple of seconds, but then I realized who you guys were, and then I was kind of like, because I think we'd actually declined that interview for that at that time, or I don't know. It got handballed off to someone else. I put it off to whoever I was dealing with, and then I think that got a no, because obviously this would have happened much earlier otherwise.
Yeah, no, it did get declined.
So I was kind of like, oh, I think we've just said no to these guys, and now they're at my house. So yeah, no, that was funny.
To avoid us,
but we made it, and look, you got me over to your place. So
I can't believe you're coming. Thank you so much for being the first one to actually be on our sofa in our flat. It's pretty crazy. You've drove here, and you're still living where you were before.
Yeah. For now, probably not going into next year.
Yeah, fair. New house.
Yeah, probably
bigger house, probably.
Maybe, yeah. We'll see.
Whilst we're actually on that, I've seen a video of you online, and I want to jump straight to it. It's of someone's filming you, maybe a flatmate or someone, and obviously there's stuff all over your room because you travel a lot, same as us.
The curtain.
Yeah, mate. I know you love your sleep, and I saw you had a blackout blind.
Yeah.
But it cracked me up because the blackout blind didn't cover the whole window.
I'm trying to think of that blackout blind, because I live with.
It might be a long time ago.
I live with Caio Collet he races in F3 this year, and that might have been I think that was our old flat, and it was my girlfriend actually bought this blackout blind, but it was getting to the point where, like, during the day it was so dark that I just couldn't see anything. So I left a little bit open, because then I was waking up. And sometimes you can get a rough idea of what time it is, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. But sometimes, like if I'd had a late night, I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, it's still pitch black. I've got a few hours of sleep.
Go back to sleep.
Check my phone and it's like midday or something already. So
sounds like us. It literally sounds like us.
Yeah. I thought you just bought a blind from the shop, put it up, and realised it didn't fit the window.
No, there was. So my girlfriend bought, I think she bought 2 of them. And so if I wanted to, I could have blacked out the whole room and the next wall and everything. And then when we left that flat, obviously I've lived on my own for quite a while, but there's still quite a few things that I'm picking up as I go along with life experience. So,
as we all are.
Exactly. You know those little sticky things you put on the wall to, like, the Velcro things?
Command strips.
Yes, those.
That's what we stick everything up with.
So I can see you guys have also had some difficulties on the wall there.
Many holes in the wall.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I've tried to put pictures up in the middle of the night, it's just...
Yeah, so I didn't realise that when you're supposed to unstick them, you're supposed to pull them a certain way or like try and peel them off a certain way.
Oh, did you pull half the wall off with it?
Well, not half the wall, but it was a pretty old flat, so it'd been repainted a few times. So probably about an inch of paint came off. And there was like, I don't know, 15 Velcro strips. So yeah, that came out of the deposit after that flat. But Caio, we had a roll of duct tape. I don't know why, but he duct taped the curtain to the window. So then we spent like one afternoon trying to get rid of all the glue from the duct tape because we just left all these marks over the window. So
it just sounds like us.
No, it is. It's just lads, young lads trying to figure out life.
Exactly.
I've read all your tweets because we were doing our research. We've actually done research for today's episode.
We did. We dived deep. We dived deep.
And yeah, I was reading the tweets. You're cooking.
Yes,
I've been reading about all the tweets about cooking.
The prawn pasta, that looked really good.
Yeah, no, that one was good. That one had some assistance from my girlfriend, but I'm going to take the credit for that one. But my girlfriend does help me out with the cooking. I haven't set too many things on fire recently, which is good. My cooking's not bad.
I'm surprised you didn't set your clothes on fire. I saw you using your oven to dry your clothes.
Yeah, so that flat was I can't remember what the issue was there, but basically it was taking forever for our clothes to dry because I just think it stayed quite cold and there wasn't really any air passing through. So
it's genius.
I was going to say, it's a genius idea because we should do it.
No matter how you explain it, it's genius.
I know. So, wow, that's what I thought. And then I started getting comments of like carbon monoxide poisoning and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, maybe this isn't such a good idea anymore. But anyway, I got my clothes in a dry enough state that I could wear them because I think I was going somewhere important. That's why I resorted to desperate measures. But yeah, I haven't had to do that one since. So hopefully, I've now got a washer dryer in my new place. So
that's good.
Caio's had an incident with that where he didn't realise that the dryer isn't for all clothes.
Okay.
So a lot of his like sports tops ended up becoming about 3 sizes smaller.
Yep,
so
that happens to us too.
He took the hit on that one, so I didn't have to learn that one myself. But I also asked my mum whether I should do that or not. So I'm still asking mum for all sorts of stuff, even though she's on the other side of the world.
Oh man, we're nearly 27. I still ask my mum every day. Didn't I call her up yesterday?
Yeah, you did.
I was like, Mum, what setting should I wash the clothes on? Because they all shrink.
Yeah.
I put a dishwasher tablet in the washing machine.
Oh no,
that's not clever.
No,
but they do kind of look the same.
They do kind of look the same.
Yeah, easy mistake. Let's all just support each other here. No, but yeah, you drove here today. Thank you so much for being here. We would love to talk to you about your journey, start to finish and get into all of that. I did just want to say though, before we do that, how do you find it driving a normal car compared to a racing car? Do you get bored?
No, I mean, it's very, very different. Like I actually find driving on the road, like there's a lot of things you got to look out for. You got to look out for people. You got to look out for cars coming the other way. Like on a racetrack, it's actually reasonably simple. Okay, you're going really fast, but
you haven't got to park on a race. I saw you parking down there. It was a bit.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but that parking was shit.
It wasn't the best. I'll give you that. And it's a sport car too, so that's bad. But like on a racetrack, you just go straight and drive fast, and you got other people going pretty quick as well. But you don't have cars going left, right, centre, or bikes, or people walking, or dogs running out across. So there's enough to keep you entertained on the road as well, in a very different way. But it's a bit slow.
Maybe I could ask that question that my dad had.
Oh yeah, it's a good time to do that. Yeah.
So do you drive an automatic or do you drive a manual?
At the moment, a manual, but that like the car I came in this morning is not actually my car. I'm borrowing a car because mine's getting fixed at the moment.
Fair.
But normally an automatic.
So if you were driving an automatic, would you use left foot braking in a normal car?
No.
You wouldn't?
No.
So that clears that up for your dad.
That does, yeah. It's a burning question my dad had.
Yeah, because like the pedals are all offset for like your right foot still. So even if you try to left foot brake, like your foot basically ends up on top of your right foot. And like I think most racing drivers' legs, or their left leg is trained to hit the brake pedal really, really hard.
I've tried left foot braking.
Yeah, so it's
smashed my head against the windscreen.
Yeah, it's not good. So right foot braking all the way.
There you go, Dad. Now we know.
There you go, Aldo. Hope you like that one.
Mate, there's so much to talk about. But let's start right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
your childhood and your karting days. Let's talk about that.
We can start. I think earlier was the earliest smoke control car racing.
Oh,
Was that
yeah,
the first thing you did?
Yeah.
Mate, I've
So
got to show you this. Look at this. I used to do it.
did you really?
Yeah, look at this. That's me and my remote control car, and I won trophies in that. Yeah.
I see you're a Red Bull fan from the very early
So
days.
Red Bull in my car from the beginning. I remember actually,
It's just the hair for me.
I remember getting my mum to buy me that shell off eBay. I found it online. I remember changing all the engines, like,
Yeah.
everything you'd do. It'd be in the back of a car boot, like you'd be driving around doing it all.
Yeah, no, it was good fun. That's where I started. So I was like, I think 6 or 7 years old, and originally it was me and my dad. We started racing off-road, like electric remote control cars, and then like that was not electric. Sorry, it was nitro. So like they had nitro fuel and all sorts of stuff. And then my dad, I think after a couple of years, kind of realized that maybe that's not the best environment for a 6-year-old to be in, with like poisonous nitrous and all sorts of stuff. And the other thing was like you have to go out to the track and like marshal the next race. So they have a bunch of different classes. And then, like, if someone rolls their car over, like, the people from the race before have to go pick it up.
You stand on the corners, right?
And, of course, I was 6 or 7, and, like, there's these cars flying through the air at, like, nearly 100 kilometers an hour in some cases.
Are they that quick?
Yeah,
they're quick.
They're really quick.
Damn.
So my dad was like, there's no way you're doing that. So it was, there was a lot of, he had to go do it, and then he would race himself. So he was, running all over the place doing it. So then we went to on-road cars, and that was easier for me to just do stuff, and it was electric and not as much stuff to kill myself with, so that was good. I could actually do more stuff, but it's really technical. Like, honestly, there's probably more stuff you can change on one of those cars than you can on a race car, like compared to F2 and F3. Okay, F1 you build the whole car, but like F2 and F3 there was definitely, I reckon, more stuff you could change on a remote control car that's like, what's that, half a meter long or not even.
I remember all the parts you could get for him. You could get like different engines, different everything. We used to do it in the back of Simon's car. We'd literally have the boot open, all the stuff.
I did have one as a kid, but I never competed, but I did have one.
Yeah, but it was all kinds of stuff. I used to race competitively. Like, we raced at the national championships and all sorts of stuff. So we used to go interstate in Australia. And yeah, you rock up to a race and you've got like a box full of like different thickness of shock oils to, change that stuff, and 50 sets of tires.
Yeah,
because,
loads of wheels.
And you can use, like, it's basically open slather. Like, you can use tire treatment. Again, there's some pretty lethal chemical combinations in there, but like you can, tire warmers, tire treatment stuff. Like, there's all sorts of stuff you can do on there. It was good fun, and I think it helped a little bit when I went to karting, because like I knew a little bit roughly like what a racing line was, sort of how to race, even if it's a bit different when you're holding a remote control versus sitting in the car, because things hurt when you crash. Did you use one of the
remote controls where you hold the square, or where you're doing the round thing?
No, with the actual wheel, not like the joysticks.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah,
people started using them at my club. It wasn't national, it was like a local club,
Yeah.
but we still competed. I travelled around Sussex.
That's unreal.
So like the level before.
You've never really told me about this.
Mate, I used to love it. And
maybe you could have been a driver.
Everyone knew me as the guy that would just smash into everyone, as you know. I would be losing. And
Still carrying that trait through to the Formula 1 game.
Honestly, it hasn't changed.
So did you know at that young age of 6 that you wanted to become a driver, or was it just a hobby that you enjoyed?
At that point, it was just a hobby that I enjoyed. Like, my dad basically just bought them, and he was like, "Do you want to have a go?" And we, like, at the very beginning, we just started taking it out in like the backyard or the school oval. I think we got in trouble a couple of times at school for fanging them around there, but then we started competing, and then like we met someone through there who was sort of like in the karting scene, and he had a daughter who had a go-kart, and he was actually the first person who gave me a go in a go-kart. That was when I was, I think, like 9 at that point. So then once I did that, then I was kind of like, oh, okay, I think I actually like this more than remote control cars.
Yeah.
And then started that journey off, and then, even in karting though, I was just doing it for fun at the start. I was reasonably decent from the outset, but like at the beginning, it never really crossed my mind that I'd be, firstly moving to the other side of the world 5 years or 6 years from that point. And then, reaching F1, that was that was not what I was thinking
That's
at all
so
at that point. It was just have fun and enjoy it. So
how old were you when you moved to England?
I was 14. So I moved for the first 6 months with my dad. And then when the school year started in September of 2016, I went to boarding school. So I went to boarding school for 4 years. And then, now
I don't know anyone that's been to boarding school, like, at all. I don't have any friends who do. What is it like? Like, because I used to be petrified of it, not going to lie, because my mum used to make jokes about it. My mum used to joke about it. If I was naughty, like, I'd have to go stay somewhere and couldn't come back.
Well, not only are you away from your family, but you're on the other side of the world.
Yeah, that was, like, I think being with my dad for the first 6 months helped quite a lot because I had him there and I could, learn some things with his guidance and stuff like that. But for me, boarding school was I actually quite enjoyed it. I mean, the thought of it when I first went there was like, oh shit, I'm going to boarding school. Like, this is the stuff of nightmares for 13, 14-year-old kids.
I don't know why, but I imagine it like you see on TV, like old-fashioned, where there's just loads of single beds all next to each other. But I'm guessing you actually probably have a room, right?
Yeah, well, you've got like...
It's not like a prison, but I imagine it like in the old days, like Victorian, where there's like just loads of beds in one big
hall. Toilet in the room.
No, it's not. It's changed from that.
I don't know why I imagine it like that.
It was all right. Like the younger kids, like I think the year level below what I joined, like they all stayed in the same big room, so there's probably like 10 of them there. But then after that, you're in like rooms of 2. When you get to sixth form, you're in rooms of 1 usually. So it's pretty good. But I think if I hadn't have been able to go out and go racing every few weeks or so, would it have been the choice? Probably not. But I think for me, school actually was really beneficial because like those 6 months with my dad, like, okay, it was nice that I had my dad there, but like I wasn't really doing school. I wasn't really doing anything apart from going to go-kart races. So then, like, you'd spend the next 2 or 3 weeks in between races just overthinking everything. Like, that's a bit of a habit of mine that I've been trying to get rid of, just overthinking stuff. And especially at that point, like when you've got no school, you don't know anyone there, you've got your dad, he's working quite a lot of the time. Like, you just overthink all the time, and then it's not really that healthy, I don't think. So then when I went to school, like, I was quite fortunate that all the people in my boarding house, because not everyone can board, or not everyone chooses to. So my house, all of the people in my year level actually boarded with me. So there was like 10 of us. So it was kind of like living with 8 or 9 or 10 of your mates. Yeah. So that was actually really, really good for me.
Do you remember, like, going back to boarding school when you were like having dinner or chatting to your friends or having lunch, at that time in your head, did you think or even believe that you would be in Formula One? Like when you put yourself back then and you're in boarding school, you've moved to England to focus on racing. Did you believe you could do it?
Well, at the start, I think I believed it was possible, but I never really like... I almost never dared to think about it because I knew the chances of it were so small. And at that point, I really just wanted to become a professional racing driver in anything, really. Like getting paid to drive race cars, that was the first aim and goal that I had. Sure. And of course, the best way to do that is by going through the junior single-seater categories. And then they went well, and then they sort of just got better and better and better, and then it was only really when I got into F2 where I was like, okay, like there's no more junior categories after this, like this is the last step. And even at the start of that year I was like, it might not happen this year, and there's probably going to be another year of F2, and even still, like the chances of that, of getting to F1 are really slim. Like, even with my career, I won F2 and then had the year out this year, and there was a few moments of uncertainty even to get into F1 for next year. So I knew at that point the chances were so slim that I just wanted to go racing and do that as a job.
Yeah. I wanted to ask that. I mean, you had a year off. What were you feeling in that year? I mean, you kind of just answered the question, but what is it like? That you've just won F2. The next step is F1, but it's so hard to get into. You've got 20 people and so many other people trying to get into the sport as well. What were you feeling at that time?
I think once I found out that I wasn't going to be on the F1 grid before F2 finished that year. So I was announced as Alpine's reserve. Things before the last 2 rounds of F2. So I knew from before the season finished that I wasn't going to be in F1 the next year, which was a bit disappointing, I can't lie. But this year we've had a good testing program with Alpine, and that was sort of the next best thing we could do once I wasn't going to get a seat. But I'm a racing driver and I want to go racing.
Yeah, you want to race.
It's been a bit tricky, especially I think it first hit me when I went to the first race, and there's F1, but then there's also F2 and F3 there, and it's the people I've been racing against and looking up to for the last 4 or 5 years, and everyone's there racing. All the people that I raced against the year before were there racing, and then there's kind of just me standing there watching. So that was a bit hard to deal with.
It's got to be tough to see them all go out and doing it, and you're just like, man, I want to be on that track.
Pretty much, yeah. And I knew I had a bit of comfort knowing that the reason I was sitting out was because I literally didn't have any other junior categories to race. So I knew that I had sort of I knew I had my championships on the board, and that was never going to change. So I knew that sort of I'd done everything I could to prove myself already. So that part wasn't too frustrating or concerning. It was more just I really want to go racing.
Yeah. Your journey's incredible as well, because you've 3 championships in a row, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it even 4?
3, yeah.
In your rookie season too?
The F3 and F2 are my rookie season, yeah. My Euro Cup was second year.
I can't even imagine what it feels like to win one all the trophies in me of the remote control cars, their 3rd trophy. So I've never won anything. So I can't
Still on the podium though. Still on the podium. Don't knock yourself.
I was actually going to edit a photo of me on the podium to show him, put me on the top, but I didn't get around to it. No, yeah. What does it feel? Do you remember winning your first, was it Renault Formula 4? Or am I wrong?
It was Formula Renault Euro Cup. So
that's not far off for me.
Not far off. So it's like it's what Formula Regional is today. It's the same championship, but it's just a different name.
What's the difference,
skill level wise, right? Because could we get into Formula 4 is what we're asking.
You just say no, you don't have to pretend.
I think with enough, I think without doing karting beforehand, it's difficult, because you learn so much in karting, not so much about, there's things that don't really translate in terms of driving from go-karts to F4.
Yeah, fair.
But just having other people around you on track, learning how to race against people, that stuff is what karting is so good for. So you probably could, and with enough testing, you'd probably be decent. I don't think it's outside the realms of possibility. I don't know. I haven't seen you guys drive, so I haven't seen your lap times on the sim yet. But
oh yeah.
Oh well, we actually haven't mentioned that yet.
People listening have no idea.
Yeah.
No, this leaderboard's been in the background of our videos for quite a while. We haven't really mentioned anything.
For those of you watching on YouTube.
For those of you watching on YouTube, if you're not, go check out the video. We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
We'll get into it later.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah. So Renault Euro Cup Formula 4, you won it. What was it like winning your first championship? Do you remember that moment, that day? Do you remember what you did after?
I remember that whole week before. So the race was in Abu Dhabi in, I think it was October, so it was hot. It was 36 degrees or something and pretty humid. And yeah, that was pretty much the first time in my life I'd been in a championship deciding situation. I was either going to come first or second. And yeah, I won the first race of that weekend, so I had a pretty big buffer into the second race of the last race. But I remember I physically felt weak at some points because I was so nervous and stuff like that. So it was firstly a massive relief when I won the championship. I think with all of my championships, not so much F2 because it was a bit more comfortable that year, but Formula Renault and F3. The first one was massive relief because they both went down to the wire. But it's such a happy feeling after you win. And I'm in a very fortunate position where I haven't come out on the other side of that yet. I haven't finished
perfect
second.
Streak.
So it's been good from that side of things. But even in F2, I had a decent point gap, but even still, like, you still get nervous. All it takes is a crash here, a crash there, the other guy to do well, and all of a sudden it's you can level it up so quickly, and all sorts of stuff goes through your head. So
I can imagine, because you're racing in F4, which is massive, and then you've got this chance to win a championship. Like the night before, or even that week before, it must be all you can think about. Like, I would be there, I'd just be lying in bed all night thinking, what if this
you wouldn't
happens?
sleep.
It was pretty hard stuff. Like, there was me and Victor Martins, actually, who were fighting for the championship. And the sort of story of that season was, it was more or less me or him winning every race. So we went into the last round, especially at the end of the season. So at the end, into the last round, it was basically me or him that was going to win both races, probably, or a combination of the two. And Victor came out in practice, and I'd been to Abu Dhabi a couple of times before that, so I was reasonably confident. Victor hadn't been there before. And then we went out for the first practice session, and Victor was a second faster than all of us. Like, my engineer was coming on the radio, and he was like, "We're 1 second off compared to Victor, and we're P2." So I was like, oh shit, like that's not good, because then at least if I was further back, at least there was other people that could take points off him.
Yeah.
Because the scenario was, if he won both races and I finished second in both races, I would have lost by half a point.
It really was that
So
close.
I was like, okay, if he wins both races, I lose, and if I come second, which is a very good chance I will in these two races, I'm going to lose by half a freaking point.
Wow.
So that was like, that scenario going in was like, I cannot let that happen, otherwise it's going to be chaos. So unfortunately that didn't happen, and I never had to relive that scenario. But yeah, it was a tough one.
It wasn't even long ago.
No,
that's
that wasn't
the crazy
long ago.
thing.
I know, it was 3 years ago.
Because
There's
your
a
path
lot's
has been
happened since then.
Like, just win.
Yeah, that's what hit me straight away, was going through your Instagram, right? You can scroll all the way back to your karting days, 2014. I think your first picture that's on there at the minute is like, was it practice for the nationals, karting nationals?
Probably something. Probably something.
Something like that. I know.
I think I can probably picture the photo on Instagram.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's
probably
just a picture of the track.
Yeah.
But that's what we had this amazing conversation last night. Your whole life is on Instagram. Everyone can see your come up.
Yeah.
And not many drivers have that. You're kind of like a new generation, really.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool for the fans. I wanted your perspective on it, and also just generally like the media around F1.
Yeah. I think it's, I think you're right. It's, I think there's sort of people that have just come into F1. Like, we're sort of the first ones that have had social media since we were like kids, more or less. So yeah, like ironically, basically when I started doing good in karting was when my parents let me get Instagram and stuff.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so it was when I turned 13. So they're like, when you turn 13, because I think that's the official age limit. So like, when you turn 13, you can get it. So I turned 13, and yeah, just so happened that that's when things started going well in my career. So yeah, it's nice to have that sort of all documented there, and for people to see. It's nice. I think if you're scrolling back that far back to photos from 2014 or whenever it was, then you've probably got too much time on your hands.
Yeah,
but
like I said,
or you're doing research. That's what it was.
That's all it was.
Podcasts.
Wanted to be prepared,
Exactly.
Yeah, we found that now, because we can actually have a proper conversation. We've done well today.
No.
We have done really well. We've got all this shit out of the way. Now we can just talk crap.
No, we haven't, because there's things I need to ask about Formula 3.
There's a lot to ask.
So then you go up to Formula 3. Is that when you join Prema?
Yeah, for F3.
My first question about Formula 3 is, you have got a load of tweets that crap me up about DRS.
Yeah.
And I need an explanation of what happened with your DRS in Formula 3.
So, that was... I mean, that year was a bit up and down, but that was kind of like the main problem of the year. So, for the first... it was 9 rounds that year in 11 weekends. So we had 3 triple headers with a week off in between. So it was a really quick season.
Oh wow!
With COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
And for the first 6 rounds, I had DRS problems every weekend.
Wow.
So I think Austria, I think the first time it happened, we counted, and like on one of the one of my qualifying laps, I think it was, but my DRS opened and closed. It was like 35 times throughout the lap. So it was kind of just going down the straight like that. And
I shouldn't laugh really, but you won the championship.
Yeah, I know, but
we can laugh about it now.
We can laugh about it now, yeah. But at the time, and it became such a regular thing that I was just like, firstly, I kind of wanted people to know that I was dealing with these problems because I didn't want people to think, if I'm having a bad race, he's just shit. Like I had more. Sometimes I was just shit, and I'm happy to say that. But for those first sort of half a season, there was some DRS problems, so it made overtaking a bit more tricky than it needed to be.
Dear DRS,
yeah.
Please come back.
Yeah, so I was like, how can I make this lighthearted and funny? And sort of take the piss out of it, really. So that's where that all came from, and then they blew up after that, and sort of the problems kept continuing. And I think there was one in like Silverstone where my DRS started working finally, and didn't have any issues. And then the next weekend we had some other major problem that basically meant my whole car was shutting off. So it wasn't even the DRS that was shutting off now. So I think I put out a tweet saying like DRS is finally solved, like our relationship is on the mend. And then the next weekend my car shuts down. Like in practice, it shut down on the out lap. I did one lap in qualifying and then it shut down. Coming to the grid for race one, it shut down and I like basically rolled onto the grid with no power. So I think I put out a tweet saying like, Dear DRS, I see you've told the rest of my car to stop working as well. Dick move. So so that was a major jinx. Like that one was pretty popular. I think that got a lot of coverage. But yeah, they were funny problems to have. But I'm glad I can laugh about them now and not go, that cost me a championship or something.
Yeah,
that
mate, fair play to you for turning it into a joke, because it must be so frustrating that you're out there and you're doing the best that you can to win and something else is letting you down, which is out of your control.
Yeah, and like it wasn't through a lack of trying that it kept coming back. Like Prema turned that car freaking inside out. Like the only thing we didn't do was change the chassis. Like we changed the ECU a few times, all the looms in the car, the radio, like we changed everything in that car except for the actual chassis. And I think
the radio.
Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah, obviously the radio.
It was.
I thought you meant radio play music.
No,
wrong station.
Yeah,
it's a podcast.
Yeah, so I think the problem was something to do with like the ECU was shorting out the radio or something like that.
I hate it when that happens.
Just explain ECU for.
So basically, like the. Jesus.
Electro-combustion unit.
No, Jesus.
No, it's not just us. It's not just us.
It's this is really bad, and I should really know this, but I want to say it's engine control unit or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, it's like it does the software for the engine and stuff.
Got it.
And all the electrical stuff. And basically, that was shorting out something. So long story short, the FIA like have the beacons for the DRS, like the timing loops in the track.
Yeah.
So it knows when you're in the zone. And my car was basically dropping in and out of those beacons. So my car, like my whole car was, I think, disappearing from the FIA's system. So that's why it kept opening and closing, because it kept dropping in and out.
Well, that's not ideal.
No, it was not ideal. And after 6 rounds, I wanted to chop my DRS in half, but anyway, it was it's nice to laugh about it now.
What's it like racing against Guanyu Zhou? Because we just did a podcast with him in Switzerland. Everyone knows it by now.
Yeah.
You guys were battling a lot last year, from what I watched on YouTube anyway.
Yeah, I think the probably the most famous one is Bahrain. There was me, Joe, and Christian Lundgaard, so all 3 of the Alpine Academy guys, and on the first weekend. So I think Mia, who was the Academy director at the time, was almost about to have a heart attack. But no, it was good racing Joe. You always knew what you were going to get with Joe. He never did anything unexpected, and he was hard but fair. I don't know if we actually had that many battles, but especially in qualifying, I think we're probably the 2 highest average qualifying positions for the year. So we were always sort of close to each other on the feature race grids, but I don't actually know if we had that many on-track battles.
I only watched like two or three.
Like
we had Bahrain where there's like the three of us coming into turn one. That was cool. So that's the most well-known one. But yeah, we were always kind of near each other on track, but never actually had that many battles, I would say.
Are you excited to race against him again? Are you guys friends?
Yeah, I still get on well with Joe. Obviously, we were in the academy together as well last year, so we got to know each other a bit better. So yeah, I'm looking forward to racing him, but I'm looking forward to racing everyone. I'd like to be able to say I'm hopefully looking forward to racing nobody and just clearing out the front.
All the way down the front, yeah.
I think obviously that's not going to be the case. So yeah.
I need to jump to a question quick because I've got so much I want to talk about. We're going to forget about it. I've been asked to ask you whether you cut your nails yet.
Yeah, I know exactly who this is coming from.
Yeah.
They look cut to me.
I don't know, they look quite long to me.
They're a little bit long, yeah. So that was like... Yeah, it's from Prema, so I'm assuming it's from Angelina. Angelina,
she's amazing, by the way.
Yeah, she's really, really good. But yeah, basically my nails grow very fast, and I'm also a bit lazy at cutting them. So it wasn't uncommon for me to turn up at a race and just have these really long nails.
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, and it got pretty much, and it got to the point where like every time I turn
extra
up,
reach on the DRS.
Yeah, exactly. So
genius. Exactly. That's winning everything.
Yeah, so it got to the point where I would go because I was with Prema for 2 years. So Angelina had to deal with me for 2 years. So it was getting to the point where like I'd turn up at the track on a Thursday or whenever it was, and like the first thing that Angelina would do was like say hi and then just grab my hands and look at my nails to see if they were cut or not. And by the end of the 2 years at Prema, I got the gist of things and
cut them once.
I actually like had conscious thoughts on like the Wednesday before the race because I don't really like the feeling of freshly cut nails. I don't know why. So whenever the race weekend started, I was like, okay, I can't cut them now. Like, it's going to feel weird.
It's going to throw you off.
It's going to feel weird in the gloves, and I don't know, probably a bit superstitious. But anyway, so I used to have like, this is how much I got reminded of it. I used to have conscious thoughts on like a Wednesday of like, shit, I better cut my nails, otherwise Angelina's going to yell at me. So I was like, so I had to cut them. But yeah, I mean, I haven't had her on my case for my nails this year, so maybe I need her back just for that.
What about toenails?
Toenails are okay, and you don't see them more. Hopefully, not too many people.
More reach on the pedals. Right.
Well, no, because it's a funny story. Some people actually have feet that are too big for the chassis.
Right.
So I've got a friend who has reasonably big feet. I think it was George Russell as well when he debuted for Mercedes.
He was the first person that came to my mind.
Yeah, he had to wear a shoe size smaller because the tops of his feet were hitting the top of the tub.
Wow.
What size are your feet?
I think like 9 or something.
Oh, and that's all right. Oh, we'll be fine then.
Yeah,
just practicing for when we're in.
Yeah, so there's like, I think if you're like more than 11 or 12, then you're in a bit of trouble. So yeah, having long toenails is not good. Also puts holes in the Nomex socks, which I mean, the fact that I know that probably says a lot. But yeah, having long toenails is not good.
Also more weight.
More weight, yeah.
More downforce.
What are we even talking about?
I don't know.
Let's get off toenails as quick as we can. But yeah, what was the Prema team seem amazing.
Yeah.
Like, we met Robert, which is cool. You raced with Robert. He was hilarious. And we've seen all the videos you did online.
Yeah, no, that was really, really good. Like, the 2 years I spent with Prema were, I mean, okay, it was a really successful 2 years as well. But, you know, even apart from the success, it was an awesome 2 years. Like, just the atmosphere and the team was amazing. And, you know, I had obviously the people in the F3 team and the people in the F2 team, which are a different staff. And they were all, you know, firstly super professional and could give me a really fast race car. So that was nice. So I liked them because of that. But also, you know, it was just fun and, you know, didn't take things too seriously. And, you know, it kind of, not that racing before that wasn't fun, but it really reminded you of, you know, why you go racing. And, you know, I think being Italian and being a family-run team as well helps with, you know, sort of the emotional side and the family atmosphere.
I mean, the way they do it clearly works.
Yeah.
Like, they're working with young people with crazy lives that have, you know, such hard training and are doing something so intense, they have to really look after you, and they clearly do an amazing job at that.
Exactly, and especially in F2, like, you know, I think there's quite a lot of pressure on the F2 teams, because they're like, you know, I've had engineers say it to me before. They're like, you know, I'm probably as nervous as you driving the car, because I know if something goes wrong on my end, you know, that could be the difference between you getting to F1 or not. So it's like,
so
wow,
true.
when you put it like that.
So like in F2 especially, because the next step is F1, like the team is under massive pressure, because they're like, you know, if something goes wrong, like a technical failure or whatever, you know, that it can be the difference, unfortunately. So there's a lot of pressure, but with Prema, you never felt that, you know, and you almost kind of forgot how sort of serious this step is. And, you know, this is quite literally the year or the years that can decide whether I reach F1 or not. So the fact that they, you know, the atmosphere there was able to almost distract you from that was you know, helped massively.
I want to just talk about your F2 season a little bit, because we've watched the video. You know, it was a crazy season. You absolutely smashed it. It was like 13 podiums, 6 wins, 5 poles.
Yeah, I can't remember the podiums, but yeah,
okay.
I think
We'll just say something.
Memorise that overnight.
Well, no, because I'm getting to a question, Fabs. All right.
Yeah.
5 pole positions in a row, which is crazy, as we see in any form of motorsport. Not many people can get that many poles in a row.
Yeah.
I wanted to know whether you get more nervous for qualifying or the race. Like, which one do you think takes the most energy?
To be honest, I think it depends a little bit on like how you're going. Like for me, going into qualifying, it depends a little bit on like how you've gone in practice. Like,
true,
you know, before I got my first pole position in F2, you know, I didn't have any poles in F3, so it was kind of like my weaker point, I would say.
Oh, you didn't get any poles in F3?
No, I didn't.
But you still won the championship.
I didn't qualify in the front row in F3.
Wow.
My best qualifying was my first qualifying of the year. I qualified third, and then I think I had one more third after that, and then the rest was lower than that.
Were you with Prema in F3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that wasn't down to me. Logan Sargent had 3 poles in a row, so that was just me being a bit average in qualifying rather than the car. But I think qualifying is, you know, you've got low fuel, you're on the softest tyres, you've got 1 lap to nail it more or less, or 2 laps to nail it. You know, you're pushing absolutely flat out. Yeah. So in terms of like getting things together, that's, you know that's the probably the most difficult part of the weekend, and also the most important. Like F2 was a bit strange last year with the format, because we had 2 reverse grid races, so you could kind of get yourself back in. But like F3, for example, you know, you start the feature race where you qualify, and then it was reverse top 10, I think, for race 2. So, you know, if you qualified outside the top 10, your whole weekend was screwed. So qualifying was massively important. But then if you qualify well, you go into the race and you're like, okay, I'm at the front for a reason, because I'm fast. But then you're like, you know, this is a lot of points that could go down the drain if it goes well, and I've got 19 people behind me. Whereas if you're starting like a bit further back, it's kind of like, okay, you know, well, in my case anyway, it was kind of like, you know, you should be fast, you should be able to make progress through the field. So, you know, there's not really much looking back. Whereas when you're starting on pole, the only way you can look is, well, for other cars is backwards. So you kind of get into that mindset. But I think qualifying, especially like in most motorsport, but especially junior single seaters and F1, like you can change your whole weekend with qualifying. So I think probably there.
Do you think you thrive when you're actually racing other people? Is that like what you love the most?
I think for me, like the part I enjoy most about racing is
winning.
Well, winning is nice, but like just knowing like that you can put everything together. Like there's so many elements apart from going fast in motorsport. Like, okay, that's the main one and the one that people see, but you know, like there's so many elements that make you fast that, you know, it's not just as simple as jump in the car and drive it. Like you've got to be able to have a good relationship with your engineer, because then he can make the car faster for you, or she can make the car faster for you. You know, all sorts of stuff. The mental side of things, like, you know, being in the right state of mind when you jump in the car. So I think nailing all of that stuff and trying to do the best you can is probably the part I enjoy the most, and also trying to beat other people. Like, I enjoy being able to compare myself against, other people on track, and yeah, like I said, try and beat them, because, in testing, when you're testing by yourself, it's kind of like, I don't really know if I'm fast, if I'm slow. Like there's a lot of uncertainty. Whereas, like, especially when it comes to qualifying, I think that's why qualifying's such a favorite for most drivers. It's like balls on the table, you know exactly where you stand, and that's it. All the, I think they're saying when the green flag drops, the bullshit stops. I think that's
nice. We'll start using that.
Yeah, I think that's where it really comes into play in qualifying there.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about the technical side of it, because I read online that I think you said if someone asked you if you weren't going to be an F1 driver or a racer or anything, you probably would have gone to uni to study engineering. Yeah. So is the technical side of the car something really important to you? Because there's been a lot of drivers, I think it was, did Mark Priestley say Kimi Räikkönen?
He didn't care, did he? Kimi didn't care.
Kimi wasn't really interested.
I can imagine that.
But then it was like, I don't know if it was Fernando or someone else, or Lewis was like really interested in how the car actually works. So is that important to you?
Yes and no. And I think that's something that I've kind of experienced, like learnt throughout my career so far, is that it's important to know what's going on, but not try and become the engineer yourself. And that was something I learnt sort of along the way, and not overthink it again. So I think the most important thing is knowing what you need from the car, and being able to tell your engineer that, and then he can get into all the technical details of what to change on the car. But
I think it's changed a lot now, right? Like back in the day, old-fashioned wise, like the drivers would have been a lot more like maybe doing things on the car, or saying, but these people, like the teams you're working with, they're going to know more than you about the car. Like that's their job.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You need to rely on them.
Exactly.
And you need to be able to tell them you want that to change, and know that they can do it.
Exactly.
You have to kind of separate both, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, knowing, like say you've got an understeery car, or all you really need to be able to say, in my opinion, is that the car is understeering. It's understeering in this part of the corner or whatever. I need more front grip or more oversteer. I don't need to be able to tell the engineer, change the camber by.
That screw off.
No, I picture you grabbing a spanner and be like, get out.
Exactly. Like, I don't need to come in and say, oh, I think we need, an extra whole front wing. A stiffer rear anti-roll bar, half a degree. Like, I don't need to be able to say that, and I'm like, it's just going to get confusing if I start suggesting those ideas. And ultimately, that's what the engineer's job is. So I don't want to sort of take away from what his job's supposed to be. So I think there's varying levels. I think some people have more or less interest in the technical side of things. I like knowing the technical side of things just so I can at least have some kind of understanding of what's going on. And I mean, in F1, it's like a lot of it's just numbers and looking at graphs and all sorts of stuff. So having an understanding of what's going on, I think, is important. But you don't need to understand it to the point where you need to start calling the shots, because that's the engineer's job. And especially in F1, you've got like not one engineer, you've got like 10 at the track, and then you've got like another 10 back at the factory doing that for you.
I'm loving hearing him talk about F1. Knowing that in 5 months, literally it's around 5 months, isn't it? You're going to be stepping onto that grid.
Let's just get stuck into F1.
We've done all of the journey, man. But congratulations. Like,
thank you.
Me and Fab were talking about it last night, and like, realistically, that is the goal, isn't it? Like being one of the 20.
It's mega. It's
and
mega.
now in 5 months' time, you're going to be there. Yeah. How are you feeling right now? Like, how has your life changed? What are you doing?
It's changed in a few ways. It's obviously been an interesting year this year with how things have played out. But I'm really excited to be on the grid. And like you said, I think for me it wasn't really a goal to reach F1. It was more of a dream to reach F1.
True.
It was more kind of when I got to the back end of F2 where I was like, okay, this dream is not such a dream anymore. It's I can actually. There's a chance I can do this.
Mate, it's actually giving me goosebumps.
It's crazy.
So knowing that's happening in 5 months, or like you said, is really, really cool. And I think it's to know that I'm one of 20 drivers in the world that does this as a job. And I say job pretty loosely because I mean, driving an F1 car is not a job. It's freaking awesome. So yeah, it's amazing, and I'm really looking forward to it and getting stuck into racing again.
I wanted to know if you had like a bit of a game plan for your first year, like without giving anything away, because I thought about it. I put myself in your shoes, and I thought, if that was me as my rookie year, I'm stepping into F1, it's huge. I would just play it safe. I'd be like, look, I'm not going for no overtakes as long as I can maintain track position and I don't crash.
We were basically comparing what we would do if we were you.
Yeah, but like you've had this streak of like winning in your rookie year, so are you going to try and go for that, like in your first year?
Well, I think being with McLaren, I mean, I hope we've got a strong car next year, but realistically, we're probably not going to have a car that can fight for wins.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case. I hope we can, but.
Maybe they're just waiting for that star driver,
We'll wait and see.
There's not many people that have the credentials you do.
It's true.
Win. That's the thing. You deserve to be here. Like, out of so many people, your position on the F1 grid is so valid.
I'd hire you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you could drive for Pitstop. F14 comes out of F1.
Do you play the F1 game?
Yeah.
We do.
Am I in your My Team in the F1 game?
Pardon?
Am I in your My Team in the F1?
Oh, we haven't got that far.
I haven't got my team.
You haven't got that far.
No, we just do split screen with the controller on the.
Okay.
You've seen the two scenes in there, yeah? We play split screen in here on the controller.
I was gonna have a go at you because do you know what My Team
no
is?
idea.
No?
So there's like career mode, but you can make your own team in career mode, and you can hire me as a driver. So I was gonna fact check you on.
Yeah, we'll see. We might hire you. Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, no, it's been really cool, and I think the journey's been good. So thank you for your nice words.
No worries.
But yeah, I think the game plan for next year, I think obviously it's going to be a massive challenge, and I'm not underestimating that at all. It's going to be a big jump to F1, and Lando's obviously going to be a strong teammate as well, and I'm looking forward to trying to learn from him as much as I can. And also, I think coming from a year out of racing, it's probably going to take a couple of races to get back into that. Or I hope not. Hopefully, it takes a couple of laps to get back into that side of
first
things.
lap. Absolutely set track record.
We're going to be sat here at home on the sofa every time you're out there. We're the biggest fans are in.
We're unbiased, right? We can't be biased with the job that we do. We support everyone, but like you're going to be our guy
the
now.
fact you've come here, we're going to go mad.
Thank you.
We have a big poster of you on the wall.
However, we want to go to a lot of the races next year. We'll probably be at quite a lot of them.
Yeah, we'll probably be on your private jet as well.
Good.
On your private jet?
Yeah.
But you got to ask, haven't you?
Can we?
Maybe.
We'll
see.
That's the best way to answer that. Yeah, it's flying round 5 months away. I wanted to know, have you watched Drive Survive?
I've watched a little bit of it.
Ooh.
I think I watched the first season of it, but I haven't really actually watched the last season. I didn't really watch that much.
Fair. I just wondered how, because at F2 we were watching it, and obviously it's getting a bigger following now, and F2 is amazing, by the way. I love it. I wish they did more to make it bigger, because some of the races and that are just as good, if not better.
There's that new YouTube series about it.
Yeah, there is, where they follow. That's cool. And but obviously there's a smaller crowd at F2. There's smaller media coverage.
Yeah.
How are you adjusting now, or getting ready for the fact that, from race day one, realistically, the Drive Survive cameras are going to be all over you? They are. It's going to be one of the biggest stories. You're going to be sat there in that black room going, I'm Oscar Piastri and I drive for McLaren. You know what I mean? How do you feel?
I guess it's if you want to.
Done that? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I assume I would. I think Drive to Survive has been a massive success story for F1, and it's brought in so many new fans, so much more attention to the sport. I think it's great. So I think I will be in Drive to Survive, unless other people say otherwise. But I'm looking forward to it. Even this year, there's been. That was sort of, knowing that I wasn't going to be racing this year, that was one of my, I guess, kind of things I wanted to experience and get used to, was the media side of things and how busy that side of things is. So when I went to Australia, for example, that was crazy for the Grand Prix there. And I wasn't even racing. I think one of the days it took me. So in the Melbourne Grand Prix, they have it's called the Melbourne Walk, where all the fans stand, and it's basically the walkway from the car park to the paddock entrance. I think one of the mornings it took me like 40 minutes.
Wow.
It's like 200 meters long or not even.
Mate, imagine your home race next year.
I know. So that was crazy last year. And just getting used to all of that stuff, like that's sort of been something we've actively tried to get used to this year. And because obviously I can't take anything from on track because I'm not on track. I can listen to Fernando and Esteban, but that's sort of the extent of what I can do.
That was the main question that I had for you. Not to put too much pressure on you, but I'm sure that you know it already. You've got a big following already, but stepping into F1, it's like the world stage for motorsport.
Yeah.
You're going to be a celebrity. Like
you already are, but like,
like you're going to be top. You're going to be top tier,
people.
man. Like with Drive to Survive, everything else, these guys are like mega celebs now, and like you're literally about to start that journey of your life. How does that feel? Like, do you ever think about it, or do you just think about the racing?
I haven't thought about it that much, but I think like I was saying, since I've been announced, I haven't really done that much. Like, I haven't been to any
really
races.
Experienced it in person, maybe.
Yeah,
as much.
So it's a little bit a bit of an unknown at the moment, but yeah, I would imagine it's going to be pretty nuts. Like, have a few people here and there like recognize me in the street or at the shopping center or whatever. So I've got it a little bit already. But I think next year it's probably going to be another level on top of that, which I'm sure will be cool in some scenarios and probably a little bit more annoying at some point. But at the end of the day, like the fans are what really allows us to go racing. If none of the fans turned up for the races, then there wouldn't be any motorsport. There wouldn't be any sport in general. So I think you've got to be very grateful to all the fans, and at the end of the day, it's a sport, but it's also an entertainment business as well. So F1's a lot of things. It's a sport, it's an entertainment business, it's an actual it's business for the manufacturers as well. Yep. So it's all sorts of stuff. But I think the show is something that Netflix and Drive to Survive has really enhanced, and I think it's brought in a lot more attention, which has been good.
We know you have your helmet, and it's like red, yellow, and blue. Yeah, and there's like a story behind that in it, where it was just something. How did you get that helmet?
So basically I had a white helmet in karting, and I was planning on getting a painted one at some point, and was like starting to design it and stuff. And then I had a crash where I flipped over and basically destroyed that helmet. So I needed.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I don't know if the video's on YouTube.
This is in karting, right?
Yeah, in karting.
Shit.
So this was ages ago. This was, I think, 2014. This was, or 2013 maybe. So that was quite early on. But basically, I was racing the next weekend and needed a helmet. And I think basically one of the helmet painters was importing like pre-painted helmets, but like really good quality ones, to Australia. So I basically just picked one off the shelf, which was red and blue. Yeah. And then I think the karting team I raced for in Europe had their main colours were like blue, fluoro yellow, and white. So I put some fluoro yellow on there, and then I went to F4 with the yellow, and everyone was kind of like, well, the first thing we see on your helmet is the yellow, so that's kind of your thing now. Obviously a little bit awkward with Lando next year because his helmet is very yellow.
Are you going to use the same helmet then, or have you planned a new one for next year?
It's in the works at the moment. Like, I mean, there will be some yellow on there still. I mean, I think it'll be pretty similar to what I've used in the past, the same sort of three colours. Yeah. But yeah, so going back to the story, I crashed, and then bought one off the shelf that was red and blue, and then it kind of just stuck there. So, yeah. Are
you looking forward to racing with Lando?
Yeah, I am. He
seems like such a cool guy.
That's what I wanted to know.
We love Lando because he's like seems so in like the world we're in, like the media world, and he has Quadrant, and he does so much cool stuff.
And there's only 1 year gap between you guys, which is nuts. He's only a year older than you, right?
Yeah, I think it might be. I think it's maybe a little bit more.
Are you 20? You're 21.
21, yeah. Okay. I think he's 99, and I'm.
Wikipedia says 22 for him, but it's probably. I guess it's his birthday coming up.
I don't know, but anyway, there's not that. There's not that far between us, which is a bit weird when he's going to be entering. I think it's his 5th year of F1.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Is that because he could start younger when he did it? Because isn't there like an age thing now?
There is, but I think that already applied when he did it. So
okay.
Like my birthday is a little bit unfortunate that like I think Wow. It depends on how you want to do it, really. Like, it depends how early you want to come out of go-karts. Like, I think Lando came out of go-karts basically as early as he could into F4. Whereas for me, I think we waited another year, and my birthday was like... It was like the day after the first F4 race or something. So we had to wait to the next year.
Oh, got you.
And then I also did an extra year of Formula Renault compared to Lando. And then obviously took the year out this year. So there's been a couple of extra years in there for me. But yeah, I'm looking forward to spending time with him and racing with him. Obviously, I think he's an extremely fast guy, probably one of the quickest on the grid. So, it's going to be a challenge to beat him, but I think it's going to be a good challenge, and I think there's going to be a lot to learn. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's super exciting because the main thing that I've learnt, right, I don't learn a lot of stuff from watching football with you, I must admit.
He tries to watch football with me and he asks 1,000
The
questions.
one thing I have learned...
You call everyone Ronaldinho.
No, I just love Ronaldinho. He supports Arsenal. He's been watching the Arsenal documentary that's on Amazon, I think. And the thing that you've said to me the most is that Arteta has made a team full of youngsters. They're all really young.
You have to put trust in youth.
And that's why their team is so good.
They're hungrier.
So this is why it's so exciting that someone that's like you and Lando together, you haven't got the old guy who's like, he can... I mean, obviously Lando's been racing for a long time, but you haven't got the Fernando Alonso's or the Kimi Raikkonens.
You've got two young, hungry people.
Yeah, which I think is a recipe for either success or disaster. Depends if you guys are fighting each other or not.
No, agreed. And I think, for me, that's, been a massive draw card of McLaren was, they really, really wanted me. They wanted to invest in youth. They've shown that through their previous years with, people like Lando, like Lewis. So, I think it's sort of been in the team's spirit and mentality. But yeah, I think it's nice to have, two young guys in there that can hopefully, build the future and move forward with McLaren. Obviously Lando's already got quite a bit of experience under his belt. So whilst we're similar in age, our experience levels are actually going to be pretty different, I would say.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's an exciting prospect moving forward.
Do you play golf?
No, not yet. You're
going to learn, just so you and Lando can get out there.
I know.
You play cricket?
I attempt to play cricket.
Okay.
I don't anymore.
Did you play in like school and that?
Yeah, I was okay. I played one game in the firsts at boarding school. So like in
so the best team.
The best team, but that was kind of may have just been because everyone else was doing their exams in the year above, and I kind of just got a pity spot in the team. But that's okay. I was okay. I wasn't anything special, but I haven't played since I left school because I really just don't have the time anymore. But yeah. I like
friends think, and like people from boarding school, and like when this announcement comes out, Oscar's racing for McLaren next year. You're on the grid. Yeah. What kind of texts are on your phone? Like, are people ringing you, going crazy? Like, what's
they must
it like?
Be so jealous.
Yeah, I think when it first came out, the attention was pretty nuts. Just getting text messages everywhere and phone calls and stuff. I've still got a group chat with like all the boys from boarding school that I was with. So
that's nice.
They were, so we still talk every now and again.
Are they the ones that set off the fire alarm, or was that you?
No, that was not me. That was definitely them. Did I know it was happening? Maybe, but that's another story.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So yeah, they were all really supportive. They all said well done, and they're excited. Or my family and friends back in Australia, they're excited as well. So yeah, it's been really cool to have their support and have their
reaction.
Really
is a family effort, right? They've supported you from day one.
Oh, 100%. It's
you travel around the world. You need their help to know how to wash stuff and do stuff in your house.
Exactly. From the biggest things to the littlest things. A lot of my career was funded by my family and other sponsors. And obviously Alpine came in and helped at the end with some contribution to that. But my family's been there from day one. Like my dad got me into remote control cars. Like when I was 6, got me into karting, got me into single seaters. And even for my mum, like she allowed me to go chase my dream at 14 years old. I think there's not too many mums in the world that would.
Does she hate it? Is she...
I think
my mum would hate it.
Yeah, I mean,
my
I don't
God,
know.
I go on
Michelle.
a night out and my mum stays up until I get home because she's so worried. Let alone driving a fucking Formula One car.
Yeah.
She would not be able to watch.
Yeah, so she, I think me leaving home so early was obviously pretty difficult for her. And, she of course, she didn't really tell me that at the time because she didn't want to scare me or, make it seem like, an even bigger sacrifice than it was already. But, they were always really supportive. The one rule that we had was, I still have to do school. I have to finish school and I have to do reasonably well at school. I have to pass at school. I think when racing started getting better, I think the expectations on grades dropped a little bit. But
30% attendance.
Yeah, it was like, I think my final year of school, my attendance was like, it was like 35 or something.
I mean, when you're 21 and you're in
ridiculous.
F1 next year, does it really matter? Like,
Mine was the same, and I didn't get into F1. So.
Yeah, so that was the one rule that my family had. Even through karting and stuff, it was always, you can go racing, but you've got to keep doing well at school. And that was the same even when I moved, away from my family and I was, by myself at school. They were still saying, you've got to, because the unfortunate thing and the unfortunate reality with motorsport is there's so many people that unfortunately don't make it in any form of motorsport. Like it's an expensive sport, as we all know. So, I think having some kind of backup or, something on the side that you can go to is really important. And I think some people kind of don't really grasp that as much as they should.
Yeah. What was your backup going to be?
Probably going to uni. I don't. Probably something to do with engineering or cars.
I never went to uni, but I only wanted to go for the party, to be deadly true. I
Yeah.
would have probably done no work.
Yeah.
I mean, now here we are doing this.
Yeah. But you got an F1 driver sitting in your
Well, that's
apartment.
it.
Okay. No, I'm not an F1 driver
No,
yet.
just-
Almost.
That's how we've been.
Just for the
That's how we've been
viewers, we say F1
promoting
driver.
for the last week. F1 driver.
Yeah.
I want to, let's do one final question. You have a final question and I'll have a final question.
Okay, but my final question is one that I think you wrote down.
Okay, that's fine. You can do it.
Okay.
I want to ask, is it going to be the one I'm going to ask?
I don't know. You
Maybe.
ask first.
I want to ask, how do you, I'm going to explain why I ask it first. Christian Horner did a video, but he was talking to someone and there was a video of a car going around a corner and he was explaining how the reason Christian never made it into F1 is because he was unable to do that with the car. Like, unable to make his brain drop into that area where he's willing to, not be scared or whatever, not worry about it. How do you, as a 21-year-old, separate risk from reward? How on earth do you fly around these streets and round these tracks? And we saw the videos when we were watching them getting so close to that barrier.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? I can't imagine it. So I just wanted to hear from someone that's going to be racing in F1 next year. How do you separate?
I think on a traditional track versus a street circuit, it's obviously a bit different because on a normal track, especially with how the tracks are today with a lot of runoff and stuff, you've got to mess up pretty big to hit something basically. So that helps at a street track. Monaco, for example, obviously that's not true. But I think for me the risk in terms of danger has never really crossed my mind. There's been a few points in your career when that happens, unfortunately when there's big crashes, unfortunately with Antoine Hubert at Spa, that was kind of really, I think for a lot of people, probably the first time they've really thought, Jesus is, bad stuff can still happen, really. So it doesn't really cross your mind it doesn't cross my mind that much. For me, the bigger risk is stuffing up and qualifying 10th instead of first. So that's more the risk versus reward that I always look at is if I brake a little bit too late, I'm going to lock up and miss the corner or whatever. Not that I'm going to hit a wall or something. But Monaco, for example, it's a very different story because, you turn in a little bit too early, a little bit too late or whatever, you push a little bit too hard, then you are in a wall very quickly and very hard. So it's a bit different, but I think when you're on track, I think if all racing drivers you can't think about that, because otherwise it's just going to hinder you. You just cannot let it get into your brain.
Push it to the back of your mind and
pretty much,
and just focus on the race.
Yeah.
My question was a bit simpler. What number are you racing with next year?
So it's, I hope 81. Well, I don't know if we can actually lodge the number yet.
Okay.
To the FIA.
We will bleep that.
Yeah,
but we know. We know.
Yeah,
Good number, great number.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of already said it before, and it's a number I've used in my career earlier. Anyway,
it was on your go-kart, no?
It was on my go-kart, yes.
Come on, absolutely for once.
Smashing it.
So that's the number I'm planning on going with. I think it's a pretty rare number. I don't see that many.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, I don't see many people racing.
And if you spin it round, it's a legal age for alcohol in the UK as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a great one, to be fair.
So so that's the number I'm planning on racing with. But yeah, unless someone nabs it, which I don't think anyone will.
They'd have to be a prick to nab that number. It's a pretty unique number.
Yeah. I mean, of the rookies coming in next year, I don't know if there's. I'd be very surprised if any.
You said rookies with an S.
Yeah. Well, I know of one rookie that's coming, obviously with Nick, but I think
sounds like you might know of a few more.
I don't know.
I don't actually want to get it out of you. Even if you do know, you don't have to say. But just out of curiosity, is there anyone on the current F2 grid from last season that you would look at that you would say they deserve a seat, that you think they're good enough?
As in from the year that I raced in?
No, from last year. From this year. Sorry.
From this year.
Because there's no one from F2 coming up, is there?
Well, I think there's a chance at Williams.
Yeah, there is definitely an open seat there. We just still have to wait and see.
Yeah, so that's why I said rookies, because that one, there's obviously a lot of speculation about that. But
this guy knows stuff. Pin him down.
I can't wait till these cameras are off.
Turn the cameras off.
The only thing I do know with that, and I don't know if we should.
Tell us after it.
Tell us after it.
So there could be, more than 2 rookies. It's a possibility. There's obviously
we have an inkling.
There's an open seat at Williams and an open seat at Haas. So there could
that's got the people excited.
Confirmed at Haas.
I don't know.
Oscar, thank you very much for joining us on the Pitstop podcast. We are now going to put you through the first ever fastest lap of the Pitstop podcast.
Fastest lap.
We are going to give you 3 laps on our simulator around Austria. Me and Fab have got our times here. So we're going to do your lap, and then we'll come sit you back down. We'll put my time up, put Fab's time up, and we'll see where you come in.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Lap. Huh?
Oscar Piastri's on our sim.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, guys, Oscar's just set his lap. Me and Jake did ours earlier, so we're going to put ours on the board first, see where we've come, and then we'll announce Oscar's over here.
Maybe I'm ready to find out.
It's quicker, not slower.
Jake, boys, you did Austria in a 108.378.
Let's go!
Round of applause! Fabio Bocca, I did a 107.783.
And here we go then.
Just organise these a bit better. Right, Oscar, where do you think you've come?
I'm hoping at the top, otherwise I'm very much questioning my career choice at the moment.
Oscar Piastri, you did Austria in a 105.
Let's go! Woo! Yeah!
Oh, 2 seconds quicker.
Top of the leaderboard, 2 seconds quicker.
Fairly impressive, actually, mate. Well done.
Thank you. I reckon, depending on who you get, I reckon they'll be able to beat that pretty comfortably, yeah.